So here I am at the site of the Bonnie and Clyde's ambush site where they were killed. They came up that road, right up here, and then there's a broke down vehicle right here. And I believe the lawmen were across the street here, somewhere in these woods, and they opened fire on them and killed them. This here is the markers. This site, May 23rd. This is Clyde Burrow and Bonnie Parker were killed by law enforcement officers. This is a newer monument. On this site, May 23rd, 1934 at 9:15 a.m., the infamous outlaw Bonnie Parker and Clyde Burrow met their demise at the hands of these dedicated law enforcement officials. Lest we forget these brave and vigilant conservators of peace. Front left, Deputy Sheriff Robert Alcorn, Beanville Sheriff Henderson Jordan, and Texas Ranger Captain Frank Hammer. Back left, Deputy Sheriff Ted Hinton, Chief Deputy Prentice Oakley, and Texas Ranger B.M. Colt. Original marker erected by Bineville Parish Police Jury. Erected by Bineville Parish Chamber of Commerce. Authentic Bonnie and Clyde Festival Committee. So coming down that road, and I got a video of me coming from that way, so it would have been their vantage point coming up to this site. And I believe right here, another side of the road, probably up here in this, that's just a guess, probably somewhere in here, probably up here. There's a little hill here and there. I think they sat here for 2 days waiting on them. So anyway, this is in Louisiana. It's probably about 15 minutes off of I-20, so close to Arcadia. Bonnie Elizabeth Parker, October 1st, 1910 to May 23rd, 1934, and Clyde Chestnut Burrow, March 24th, 1909 to May 23rd, 1934, were an American criminal couple who traveled the central United States with their gang during the Great Depression. Known for their bank robberies, although they preferred to rob small stores and rural gas stations. Their exploits captured the attention of the American press and its readership during what is occasionally referred to as the Public Enemy era between 1931 and 1934. They are believed to have killed at least 9 police officers and 4 civilians. They were killed in May 1934 during an ambush by law officers near Gibsland, Louisiana. This video is not necessarily the story of their life, but the story of how they died and where they died at this location. Burrow and Parker were killed on May 23rd, 1934 on Arroyo Road in Bineville Parish, Louisiana. Texas officers Frank Hammer, B.M. Manley Galt, Bob Alcorn, and Ted Hinton, and Louisiana officers Henderson Jordan and Prentice Morrell Oakley formed the posse. Hanna led the posse, and he had begun tracking them on February 12th. He studied the gang's movements and found that they swung in a circle, skirting the edges of 5 Midwestern states, exploiting the state line rule which prevented officers from pursuing a fugitive into another jurisdiction. Burrow was consistent in his movements, so Hanner charted his path and predicted where he would go. The gang's itinerary centered on family visits, and they were due to see Metvin's family in Louisiana. On May 21st, the posse members from Texas were in Shreveport, Louisiana, when they learned that Burrow and Parker were to go to Blandville Parish that evening with Metvin. Burrow had designated the residence of Metvin's parents as a rendezvous in case they were separated, and Metvin's did get separated from them in Shreveport. The full posse set up an ambush at the rendezvous point along Louisiana State Highway 154 south of Gibsland toward Sales. Hinton recounted that their group was in place by 9 p.m. and waited through the whole next day, May 22nd, with no sign of the perpetrators. Other accounts said that the officers set up on the evening of the 22nd. At approximately 9:15 a.m. on May 23rd, the posse were still concealed in the bushes and almost ready to concede defeat when they heard Burrow's stolen Ford V8 approaching at a high speed. The official report had Burrow stopping to speak with Metvin's father, who had been planted there with his truck that morning, to distract Burrow and force him into the lane closer to the posse. The lawman opened fire, killing Burrow and Parker while shooting about 130 rounds. Oakley fired first, probably before an order to do so. Burrow was killed instantly by Oakley's headshot, but Hinton reported hearing Parker scream as she realized that Burrow was dead before the shooting began in her direction. The officers emptied all their weapons at the car. Nearly all of their wounds would have been fatal, yet the two had survived many bullet wounds over the years in their confrontations with the law. According to statements by Hinton and Alcorn, each of us 6 officers had a shotgun and an automatic rifle and pistols. We opened fire with the automatic rifles. They were emptied before the car got even with us. Then we used shotguns. There was smoke coming from the car. It looked like it was on fire. After the shooting the shotguns, we emptied the pistols at the car, which had passed us and ran into a ditch about 50 yards down the road. It almost turned over. We kept shooting at the car even after it stopped. We weren't taking any chances. Researchers have said that Burrow and Parker were shot more than 50 times each. Others claim closer to 25 each, or 50 in total. Officially, the 1934 report by Parish Coroner Dr. J.L. Wade listed 17 separate entry wounds on Burrow's body and 25 on that of Parker, including several headshots on each, and one that had snapped Burrow's spinal column. Undertaker C.F. Boots Bailey had difficulty embalming the bodies because of all the bullet holes. So this is the spot, kind of out in the middle of nowhere in northern Louisiana, where Bonnie and Clyde met their end. I'm going to show a couple more clips after this that kind of shows different vantage points. It's going to be the vantage point where Bonnie and Clyde were driving down the road towards this site, and then across the road in the woods where the police officers would have been held up to ambush them when they came down the street. Now, this is 1 mile from the ambush site. This is the direction that Bonnie and Clyde would have been driving on this road. So I thought it'd be cool to kind of show it from their perspective. This is the last mile that they ever drove. Just there at the top of that hill right there is where the site is. So this is pretty much, except for it being a dirt road, this is how it looked when they were coming up on the site. This is, as I start to slow down, this is about where they were probably slowing down. And this is a police officer's perspective. They were up in these woods, I think is where they held up for a couple of days waiting on them. Now, from what I understand, at the time it was a dirt road, and it was a lot more narrow of a road than it is today. So, you know, the woods may have extended closer to the road than they do now. But they're trying to give you the vantage point that maybe the police officers would have had. And another fun fact is the movie Highwayman with Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson. They actually filmed the ambush scene right here. They did some special effects to make it look like a dirt road and thinned it up. But so this could be a perfect vantage spot for ambush to occur. So anyway, I showed you the perspective of Bonnie and Clyde. And this, somewhere around here, is the perspective where the police officers ambushed Bonnie and Clyde. Right here. This is the location of Ma Canfield's Cafe, where Bonnie and Clyde stopped at 9 a.m. on May 23rd, 1934, picked up sandwiches, and drove off to their deaths 7 miles away. This is also the location of the Bonnie and Clyde Ambush Site Museum.